Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
I am no bad. Let me mute the stream real quick so I'm not getting double audio.
That's no worries. You have a fantastic accent.
Thank you. It's a weird hybrid of like Glaswegian, Perthshire, Surrey.
It's an excellent mix. This is GuyHigh from the stream.
Hi, stream.
So if it's all right, do you fancy telling us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm a recent kind of film graduate. I style myself as a director. And I'm just a wannabe political activist, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just well, I try to kind of sorry, I've never spoken in front of so many people before, in front of so many people.
That's no worries, man. Just take your time. We're chill as hell, and we can just chat away.
Aye, well, I'll do a quick life story thing.
Yeah, please do.
Came out as LGBT when I was 14 in high school, during the point where there was not a lot of education about that topic because I'm from a country area originally.
Yep.
Um, so had to deal with that. And then as I've kind of gone through education, I've just tried to push general knowledge about LGBT stuff in the small spaces I've been involved in. Um, I've often found I'm one of the few LGBT people, at least publicly out in my circles.
Yep.
So eventually, when people do start coming out and stuff, I'm on hand to be like, hey, I've been doing this since I was a kid. You're gonna have a lot of questions. What do you need? Kind of a local help sort of idea.
No,
Uh,
that's excellent. That sounds brilliant.
but yeah, one of the things that kind of drew me to watching this, I know Ty is mainly focused in high school, but I've just got out of uni. I've just finished my fourth year.
Yep.
Graduated about the same time you did.
Brilliant.
And during my time at uni as a film student, quite often I wanted to tell LGBT stories. And quite often I had to deal with film crews made up of other students being like, yeah, we're not here to tell this kind of story. I'm like, great. What do you mean this kind of story?
Right. Yeah.
Because, like you were saying with the analogy of the math problem earlier, there's this weird idea in like creative mediums that LGBT is its own class. Like
Yeah.
you can't tell a story featuring gay people, otherwise it becomes an LGBT story.
Yeah.
And that went up to the point of like the establishment as well, because during my final year, I wanted to write about how film caters to white straight cis men and stuff like that, and the problems with that both inside the industry and like what we create.
Yeah.
And my lecturer, kind of was like, well, that's a really generic topic, and I'm like, that's fair. uh well, and she's like, well, why do you want to do this? I'm like, well, I'm bisexual, I'm gender fluid, I'm trans. And her response was to go, oh, well, maybe you should just tell trans stories because that's what you'll understand.
Oh
I'm
God.
like, you realize I'm more than just the class trans person, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
That. Yeah. Jesus.
and then I filed that with I brought that up to a member of the establishment, and pretty much nothing ever got done about it. So it's now, I guess, my mini life's purpose is trying to do more inclusive LGBT stories in the small creative stuff I'm involved with.
Yeah. That's. I mean, is. I mean, the chat's reacting to You'll see it at your end, but like the sort of general ignorance, and it's a lack of
I think Zap puts it perfectly, where it's like, as a queer person who's also making films, I find it hard to include LGBT content because we've been socialized to believe it's inappropriate.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing that almost goes to point where we've heard it from a few other speakers today that like the um, the sort of go to when you talk about LGBT inclusive education is the first is about sex, and of course from a inappropriate side of things, that's where the mind goes. It's not to the Disney like fairy tale like heterosexual
Yeah, like
narrative.
straight people. You guys get Disney. We have Brokeback Mountain, and that's it.
Yeah. It's there's definitely a lacking um, in like media from the sort of ground up. Like some films, um, are rightfully applauded, but like they deal with extremely adult LGBT relationships. But you never get to see any of the sort of a young kid level. The relationship between LGBT characters is often dismissed as being just children. Like it's almost like we categorize children as not knowing how to convey love or anything like that, or understand it to the point where anything that is LGBT, and it's like
When
kids expressing their love.
yeah,
It's a child love that's not real and not formed or anything like that.
I've got 2 points from that. I think one of the places as gamers, God, that's a bad word to use.
Yeah, I
We
feel I
we
feel the
saw that
cringe.
was during The Last of Us when it got like the prologue DLC and it was announced that Ellie was queer.
Yeah.
And then one of the immediate large fallouts was, oh, she's just a kid. She doesn't really understand what it means.
Oh, for goodness
I'm
sake.
like, well, one, she's like 14.
Yeah.
And I was 14 when I came out, but I'd known I'd been queer since because I'm from a weird household where my parents are Tories, but we're also progressive. It's a whole thing. But like, my mother was always very accepting with like sexuality and gender identity and stuff. So I've known I was queer since about like 9. I just didn't have the words for it because of lack of education.
Yeah.
And then I came out at the age of 14 because of I got into a very loud argument with one of my friends who was pulling the whole bisexual people are just like they need to make a decision choice.
All right. That,
So
that old that old chestnut.
he was being all loud. I was loud back. He was like, "Why does it even matter?" And I'm like, "Because I'm bisexual." And I'm like, "Well, this is a thing. I guess I'm the school queer now." Okay. So
Right. Yeah.
that was a fun adjustment period from being not just like the weird dork, being the weird gay dork.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's weird how all of this just stems from a complete lack. I mean, I cringed when you said that your friend was making the argument that bisexuals need to make up their mind. Like that activates a deep cringe inside me, because it's one of those arguments that you always expect that everyone's moved on from, and yet you hear it time and time again.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre one. So I mean, from you've just come out of education. Like, what would you think would have been different had Ty been around when you were growing up through high school?
I think, well, growing up through high school, I think by the time I left in sixth year, I wasn't the only queer anymore. Like, even in my year, other people had come out and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like that would have happened a lot quicker. People would have been able to be presented with these opportunities to realize their own identity because they're being taught about it. Um, Most of the people in my high school who came out only came out after they hit sexual maturity.
Yeah.
And obviously that reinforces the stereotype that LGBT people are obsessed with sex, which is what the chat is currently talking about to some
Yeah.
extent. But like, I think that, and I never had any LGBT related sexual education. I I recently discovered basically that I was gender fluid, and that's been a whole new experience because our basic understanding of gender societally is so skewed off from what we're transitioning, pun the pun, into.
Yeah.
We've got organizations like Mermaids and TIE and stuff like that, which are beginning to enter the concept that gender's not a binary and that, but I knew I was different. I knew I was feminine, but I didn't know I was trans until I was 20, 21. And only then I got a concept of what that means because of the lack of education. I had to use Tumblr and ContraPoints and stuff like that to understand remote things about myself that we should be getting taught as young people so that we can understand who we are. Dominic earlier made a great point about education at this point is just teaching us to be workers. Like, it's not teaching us life stuff. And for obviously LGBT youth, a big part of that is figuring out that you don't have to conform to cishet lifestyles, and then how to live outside of that.
Awesome. If you don't mind, can I ask you the signature last question? That what do you think of the potential for TIE being expanded globally? In terms of what do you think people who are watching right now, if they wanted to get in touch with TIE, like this could be a global movement, is what I'm trying to say. And what would you say? What would you say about that?
I'd say that is ideal because the way obviously society is connected to the internet at this point. So while that offers great opportunities that we can talk to people from around the world, we talk to people with a lot of varying education levels, especially about topics such as LGBT stuff.
Yep.
So the idea that TIE could spread itself out and begin to tackle that problem, I think, is a vital thing that needs to be done, because the more we connect to other people, the more, we're very progressive in Scotland, but we talk to other countries like some parts of America right now that aren't very progressive. And it's when we're becoming more of a unified species, kind of, through the internet, we need to unify education.
Yeah, from a globalized point of view. And now, Alec, I've got a massive interest in technology. And from like network effects and how people interact online and stuff. And I mean, I suppose it kind of comes with running a blog, but it's interesting. What you were saying there and how you turn to, before you were saying you turn to Tumblr and ContraPoints and stuff, and you were learning all this new information that you should have been taught. And the thing is with the likes of TIE, if they're able to get their essential nugget of information, framework, you name it, like, it can be duplicated so easily.
Yeah, it's not like it's not that hard to teach LGBT things to people, like, especially young people, because young people are more susceptible to things because they haven't had ingrained in them yet. And the idea of doing that on a global scale is, as a
It's
queer
exciting.
person on the internet, it makes me like really happy and slightly emotional and really excited at the idea that we can teach people. That's why, I try to do stuff like YouTube. My most popular thing at the moment was me criticizing Graham Linehan.
Brilliant. Well,
during
we'll always support you with that.
during the H Bomber Guy stream.
Yeah.
But then I had to take that down because the TERFs found it.
Oh god. Yeah. I dare say it was posted on Mum's Net.
Probably. I was caught up in the H Bomber Guy stream thing to some extent. I was there for a lot of it in the chat, like I'm gonna probably be for this. So yeah, we need to tackle the misinformation, and for tackling it for older people as well, the best way to do that is through their children, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Like, I have family members who aren't fully understanding of the LGBT stuff, but their kids are, and their kids are re-educating the adults, and I'm re-educating my parents.
And that's how it's gonna work. And I mean, like, being able to address being able to address these issues and re-educate parents who have not, like, the concept of gender identity for a lot of parents is a very, very foreign one. And I think it's amazing how, with I'd say a new generation growing up with a better understanding, that were actually being influencing the generation before.
Well,
So
yeah, like slightly off topic. You see that with Greta and the climate change stuff,
yeah,
and that's gradually beginning to happen for LGBT issues specifically, and that's
and
great.
funnily enough, there's always a old bastard at the Telegraph ready to write an absolute horrible thing about her.
Yep.
But I mean, that's the fight,
I
and
mean,
like,
society is. I keep cutting you off. I'm so sorry.
no,
This is
no,
your
it's no
stream.
problem at all. It's you. You're here to talk.
Society is like some definitions of society are marginalized groups gaining rights, and then reactionaries and regressives trying to fight against that.
Yeah,
So quite often it is a battle between old versus young in forms of thinking, and education is the important part of that.
yeah,
TIE should go global and listen to queer kids. And
yeah.
thank you for being an ally, by the way.
Hey, look, I mean, I'm just trying to do my part. One of the, like, not to talk about my journey too much, but again, it was Tumblr, and people like yourself who've followed me on Tumblr for quite some time. There has been a whole education piece on that, and I did not start out half as knowledgeable as I am today, and I'm still very much learning, and I still make mistakes, as I've probably already done this stream, but from a
But you're willing to learn, and that's the important thing.
yeah, but I think there is a willing to learn, but there is also a huge acceptance on the community's part that you are like when you are understanding enough that when I make mistakes, you don't. I mean, you kick my arse and you tell me to get it right, but it's it's a learning thing. It's not like the whole cancelled.
I was going to say cancel culture,
We
yeah.
had we had we had Lemmy on earlier, who's quite keen on the whole cancel thing. If you look at his Twitter.
Yeah. How long until we cancel AyeforScotland?
Well, I don't know. Probably not long enough, and at least until I say Scotland again. Oh wait, I've done it. Oh, nightmare.
All right, stream's over. Shut it down.
Right, shut up. No worries, my man. If it's all right with you, I'm gonna jump for a pee, and then I think that there's a few other people lined up to chat. But thanks
Aye.
very much for coming on and saying it. I know it's like totally off the cuff. There's been speakers who have maybe had a wee bit more time to plan what they want to say. But I think that's an incredible bit about the stream so far, is that every single person has a story.
Yeah.
And and thank you very much for coming on and telling yours.
Thank you for
So,
having me.
no worries, my man. Have a good one.
And you.
Right, as I said there, I am going for yet another pish. See, this is how I'm going to stay awake for the remaining... Jesus, fuck, the remaining 14 hours.